Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to have you here. And today we've got three parts to this session for you guys. We're going to introduce ourselves, what we do, the committee members, and then afterwards, later on, we're going to have a icebreaker to allow you guys to get to know each other a little bit. And we'll have a fun taster session of one of our public speaking seminars. So the agenda for today is as follows. Of course, it is 2 hours long, and I don't expect that all of you will want to be here or can be here for the full 2 hours. So if you have to leave at any time, that's perfectly fine. So before we get started in earnest, I do want to go over the differences between the remote and full membership. So of course this year, due to the COVID-19 restrictions, the UCL Student Union has has basically given every society a free remote membership, which allows them to, and societies get to decide what members get access to with the remote membership as opposed to the full paid membership. So for UCLUNA, the differences are that the remote membership gives you access to webinars with guest speakers, which we have planned, and public dialogues with the entire UCL community, such as UN75 dialogues that our VP Outreach, Nadara, will be discussing in a bit more detail later on, and also discussions about the SDGs or any other public-facing opportunities for the entire UCL community. Compared to that, the full membership, which is £5, available on the Student Union website, gives you access to all of the above, in addition to training sessions such as today's, careers events, and social events that we have planned in the next few weeks. If you have any questions about the differences in the membership, drop me a message on Zoom or in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to explain anything else to you if you have any queries. So I guess we'll just go straight into committee introductions. Right, so my name is Gyubin. I'm a third-year natural sciences student. And a fun fact about me is that the largest game prize I have ever won is a 6 feet tall purple banana from Winter Wonderland last year. Of course, it's closed, so all of you who are new to London will not have the opportunity to win that and recreate that amazing picture, unfortunately. But rest assured that it is massive, it is gorgeous, and I'm immensely proud of it, as you can see from my smile in the picture.
And can I also just say, this is his Facebook profile picture as well. Like when he says he's proud, he is very proud of this.
I'm truly proud of it. And I think you'd be too, Nadara, if you had actually won such a grand prize. Cool, moving on.
Hi everyone, I'm Isabel and I'm a second-year sociology and politics of science student. And as you can see, I have a very long list of roles currently, so I'll be looking forward to someone to take the role of treasurer off me. And I'm in charge of all the social media as well. So if you guys have any suggestions, you don't like it, you like it, you want to see something different, let me know. And the fun fact about me is that I have fallen inside a washing machine twice, not as a child, but in recent years, like as early as 2019.
There we go, just trying to unmute myself. Hi everyone, my name's Henry. I'm a third-year PPE student. Yeah, I was trying to think of a fun fact, and eventually I remembered that a few years ago, I took part, in New Zealand we call, if you're from the UK, you call them wellies. In New Zealand they call gumboots, and was part of an attempt to break the world record for the biggest gumboot run. I think we ran a kilometre. We broke the record. I actually can't remember how many people did it, but it was a thrilling day, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Oh, sorry, Rod isn't able to be here with us because he has an interview, but I'm sure you'll get to meet and get to know him in future sessions.
All right, so then I guess that's my turn. Hello everyone, very nice to meet you. I'm Alvaro. I'm an affiliated student here at UCL coming from Spain, and I'll be doing my year abroad of Erasmus here at the Faculty of Laws. So I hope to meet some of you. And if I were to tell a fun fact, it's something which I'm quite embarrassed about. I was really a fan of Naruto. I hope that you all know what that is. And once I cut my finger on a kunai that I bought at the fair, my father was so angry with me, and he actually decided to stop buying me manga from then on. So yeah, that's about it. And I will be performing as training officer for you all during this academic year. So have a very nice day.
All right, that's me. Hi everyone, I'm Nadara. I'm a third year PPE student. And my fun fact is that I can finish a bottle of J2O in under 5 seconds. Some people think J2O is vile. I stand by it. I can already see Henry judging me right now, but it's fine. You know, I think it's a great drink. But yeah, I'm currently actually in India. Still stuck here because of well, COVID. But I hope to be back in London with all of you very soon. And yeah, I help run the outreach programs.
I was curious when I saw your slide, what actually is J2O?
Oh my gosh, no, okay, this is what's wrong with this generation, all right? J2O is an orange and mango and passion fruit based drink, and so they sell them in like these glass bottles, and so when I was little, I always thought this was so cool because it looked like beer, and I was like, you know, J2O is so cool. So I just got, well, I clearly got very good at drinking it very quickly. So yeah, it's a childhood habit that I learned.
Fair enough. Thank you, Nadara.
And my name is Ola, and I will be outreach director this year, and I'm a second year social science with quantitative methods student. Originally from Poland, and my fun fact, as you can very clearly see, is the fact that I really miss my cat that's currently at home, and I FaceTime him with my grandma quite regularly. The highlight of my day.
Hi everyone, I am the third PPist on our committee. I'm the Vice President of Events for this year. One of my priorities is to be very responsive to our membership, so it's great that so many of you have joined us today. And if you do have any ideas for events, please then let me know. My fun fact is I was brought up on a British military base, which is really some spin doctoring of a less interesting fact that I was born in Germany. And I moved to the UK when I was 10 or 11 to Somerset, where I still live, Grey County. And it should be a great year.
Okay, so I just wanted to go over the social media that we will have for this year. So we are going to be quite extensive in it. We are going to be mostly active on Facebook and Instagram. However, we would highly recommend to everyone to subscribe to our newsletter as well, because that's where you receive the most up-to-date news on what we are doing for any events, speaker webinars, or even for our outreach. And I'll just drop the link to our Linktree into the chat right now, so they can check it out and see all the relevant links to what I was talking about.
Yep. So just a little about the newsletter. If you have purchased either the remote or the full membership on the UCL Student Union website, you're automatically signed up to the newsletter, so don't worry about signing up to that again. Yep, just a note I wanted to make on that. Cool, and I believe once that's covered, that brings us back to Patrick about events.
Yeah, so as I said in our introduction video, for those of you who have seen that, I do really think that events this year can be as good as they've ever been. We have a very extensive contact list of people in the international relations and global affairs space. We're looking either at the end of this month or the start of next month to do an event with the British Association of Former UN Civil Servants, which will be a great event for those of you who'd like to attend that. But it really sets the scene for a full year of careers events, discussions, webinars with guest speakers, and of course socials as well. We have a social this Saturday for those of you who'd like to get to know each other a bit more personally. And I think that, yeah, I'm really enthusiastic for what we should be able to accomplish.
So in terms of outreach, what we're doing with UCLUNA, so we recently moved from being the UCL Model United Nations organization to the United Nations Association. So we now have an outreach branch, which is new this year. So for those of you that are interested in getting involved, the outreach branch is a great place to start, because we're just sort of building. But we do two main things within our sector. We have the UN 75 campaign, which I'll talk to you about quickly. And then our sort of flagship thing is also the student-led volunteering program that's been going on for 3 years now, which Ola will talk to you about, who's our outreach director. So the UN 75 campaign, I'm not sure how many of you are actually familiar with it, but it's now the 75th anniversary of the United Nations. And so instead of, you know, doing their usual celebratory event, they're this year going into doing a civil society based series of dialogues and democratic polls, and basically doing a civil society campaign. Just quickly mute over there. But yeah, so we're basically just they're running a civil society campaign. UCL and myself and Ola in particular are one of the central hubs that are working towards this campaign in the UK on a national basis. So I actually work directly with the UN 75 team in New York and Geneva, which means that UCL is sort of the central hub for this campaign in the UK amongst young people. So it's a really nice place to get involved. We also work with the United Nations Youth Platform, which was another sort of central hub of UNA associations and chapters. So it's really a great place to meet people outside of UCL, but also a great place to make sure that your voice is heard within the United Nations. So we work closely with UN 75 consultants as well, who often come and join our calls and have a chat with us. So we really do have our voices directly heard in Geneva and New York, which is great. So that's the UN 75 campaign. We'll be running a series of dialogues and events on that front. So do keep an eye out. And if you have any questions, just drop me a message and I'm always happy to have a chat. But I'll hand over to Ola now to talk to you a bit about the student-led volunteering program.
Yeah, so the sort of second main part of our outreach is the student-led volunteering program. And as Nurara said, we've been running it for 3 years now, and at least so far the program has been quite successful every year, and we're usually popular among schools. So basically what the program is, as you can see on the slide, is we and our volunteers try to conduct MUN and debate skills workshops, and especially underprivileged schools in London. You could be familiar with something called Debate Mate. So it's, again, an organization which provides debate skills workshops, but this one is paid, and we do everything on a volunteering basis. So it's great. I mean, if you have a passion for debate, if you have a passion for MUN and you want to help younger people get into it and share your skills and your passion, this is really an amazing opportunity for you. You'll be working with young people for whom this could be the first sort of debating experience in their life. And as I said, we usually get quite popular, so we will be very, very actively looking for volunteers who want to work with us. So if any of you are even remotely interested in this, do not hesitate to drop me or Nudara a message and we'll guide you through all the details. And also, if you want to learn more about the program and get to know me and Nudara a bit more, there is a volunteering fair tomorrow from 12 to 3:30. And also this year, to kind of as a bonus, we're planning to have hoodies for us, all the volunteers. So despite COVID circumstances and remote working and remote learning, we can feel more like a community. So if you are interested in that, drop us a message, come to the volunteering fair, and we'll be more than glad to work with you.
Lovely. Thank you, Nodara and Ola, for introductions to the outreach department. And I believe that brings us to Alvaro and Henry.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm the Vice President of MobUN for this year, which basically means I'm well, it's got a slightly diminished role perhaps, and I might have under non-COVID circumstances, but basically everything to do with the academic side of Model UN. So that's going to be conferences, which will be all online this year, as well as training sessions, looking after any of you that are interested in potentially chairing, all that side of things, and of course our skills training program. So the first thing to say is that if anyone has any questions about any of that, please don't hesitate to drop me a message. If you have any questions about training, in particular, what's happening in each session, you can contact me, but you can also contact Alvaro or Raed. So just sort of a few brief headlines, I suppose, of what's happening this year. So unfortunately, there's going to be very little to basically no direct training, in-person training for this term. It's looking increasingly likely that that might be the case for next term as well. And the same goes for conferences. There are not, as far as I'm aware, any conferences even planned to be taking place in person, probably for the rest of the academic year. Fortunately, however, there is plenty of online conferences going on. We've got the University of London conference coming up on the 24th of October, but I'll say more about that in a second. But we are also going to be running a series of skills-based sessions, basically working on some of those essential skills. So public speaking, negotiation, policy development, writing. They'll be useful for Model UN, but are useful just in life in general. And Alvaro will probably talk a little bit more about that in a second. So the main thing to take away is that even though we're potentially losing some of the chances to take part in things in person, there's still going to be so much going on with UCLUNA this year. Weekly sessions will be happening, which we really encourage you to get involved with. We're going to be running a little session quite soon to sort of start talking about some public speaking skills, and hopefully everyone enjoys that. The other thing I want to say is that we're also really want to encourage chairs. So if any of you have done Model United Nations before, perhaps even chaired committees before, please do get in contact with me, drop me a message, because we really want to be trying. UCL's become sort of quite well known for the quality of the chairs it produces, and we really want to continue to encourage that and develop that. It's a great chance to really show some initiative, to practice your leadership skills, and it'll be a really enjoyable thing to take part in. Now, Alvaro, I don't know if you want to just briefly go through the plans for our training sessions this year.
Yes, indeed. So, well, this actually should be done by Red, but well, given the fact that terribly I'm missing my boss here, I think it's up to me to deliver a very quick brief of what we want you to do. So I'm guessing that many of you might have not ever heard about MUN, and many of you will have. So one of the main things that the training skills sessions aims to do is precisely to bring all of you to the very same level. And as Harry was just saying, it's not only about MUN. So of course we will be covering topics such as rules of procedure, or how to specialize in your committee, how to how to integrate whatever you want to bring forward in the committee into the special characteristics of each of those committees, because it's not the same to be working in the Security Council than to be working in UNESCO. So we want you to be able to circle around that, but we also want you to be developing skills such as critical thinking or lobbying or policy development, which will not only be interesting for you during your career at MUN, but also during your actual career at a university. And also we, as something new that we wanted to be bringing this year, we also thought that given that we are working with MUN, it's important for you all to be having a good education in international law. So we will also be providing with some very quick sessions on, for example, what is international law, which some, I mean, those of you studying law might get to know about, but those of you doing economics or medicine or sciences might not. So human rights, the regulation of international economic relations, or even the use of force in international law will all be topics that we will try to be very nice and very, try to make it funny so that all of you don't go away in the first session. So that's about it, and I hope that we aim to do it nicely for you. I think that the first session will be next week on the 13th, and it will be on public speaking. And then on the 20th, we were thinking about going with international law and very general perspective and definition. So we will see about that. But well, I hope to see you all, and I hope that we will be able to attract you into coming back to us.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot for that, Alvaro. And I just want to stress for everyone, because I know sometimes Model UN and things like that can be very, can be quite intimidating and jargon heavy and all that sort of stuff, that ultimately the people we're really here for, of course, we want to support those of you that are really experienced and have loads of the skills, but anyone that's never done it before, you never heard of it, and just want to improve your public speaking or want to give a go at some of these things for the first time, I mean, you're absolutely welcome, and we're going to be here for you the whole way through to support you, whatever your goals are. It's not just about taking it really seriously, it's also about all the other skills you can get from it. So just the final thing I want to say is that we are really looking forward to working with you. Raed, who's sorry he can't be here today, as well as Alvaro and myself, really excited to be working with the two of them. It's a fantastic team. Hopefully we'll see you all at some the training session later and in future weeks. And again, more details about signing up for conferences will be coming up very, very soon. So very much excited to see how everyone's going to be looking at the end of this year.
Connections.
Lovely, thank you very much, Henry and Alvaro, for that introduction. And as I've said, we have a dual-pronged approach this year when it comes to skills, along with rolling out stations, because as we all know, MEN's conferences are not going to be happening in person, which is a real shame because they're really good opportunities to hone your skills when it comes to leadership and lobbying and public speaking. But of course, we'll try our level best to inculcate these skills and to give you guys opportunities to practice them from the comforts of your homes or from your university accommodations. And now on to some icebreakers before we go into the taster training session.
Okay, so the frequently asked questions that we have collated have just been questions we've been getting quite frequently on both our Instagram and Facebook, or during on our stall during Freshers Fair on the Student Union website. So the first question that we seem to have gotten a lot of is, do we have a first year representative position? And yes, we do. This year, instead of one, we're going to be having 2 roles opening up for the first years. And we're probably going to have elections in late October. And so the first year role usually is a very flexible role. You can choose how much or how little you want to do within that role. But mostly we just want the first years to observe how the committee works and take note of anything they potentially like or not like, and maybe help collecting feedback from our overall society, because they're acting as the voice of the first years or anyone who's new to MUN in general. And if you want a more detailed response on what this role is, you can ask either myself or Henry, since we were both first years representative for our respective first years. So can we take
ask Isabel? Make sure you ask Isabel. She's so much better than I was.
No, that's too nice. That's too nice. So the second question we got is, can we take part in some sessions prior to purchasing the full membership? And yes, we can. However, we would highly encourage everyone to try and purchase their membership by the next training session, which is going to be next week. And our fee is £5, which, as Gyubin has stated, is the price of bubble tea in London. So, and we do have one of the cheapest fees among all the societies in UCL, so do buy them. So the next question is we get but this is a question that we have gotten quite frequently. How do we keep up with society events? So as we have stated earlier, we'll post all updates regarding our events, outreach, or any webinars on Facebook, Instagram, and occasionally LinkedIn. However, we would highly encourage again that you do keep an eye out on our bi-weekly newsletter, as the details for our next coming events will be the most recent and the most up-to-date. And I think I've posted up the Linktree link in our chat earlier up, if one of the committee could help resend it again. So that provides you, our Linktree will provide you to all the necessary signups that you could potentially want to keep up to date with our society. So another questions we got is, will there be any in-person events this year? And unfortunately for term 1, we will not be holding any in-person events. This is due to a multitude of reasons. The main one being that we do not want to risk anyone's health or safety, because COVID-19 is still a very present threat to all of us. And the process for applying for in-person events is subjected to the student union and the government regulations at the present time. So if we were to hold in-person events right now, we'll be limited to 6 people only for 1 hour in indoor spaces. And our committee itself is already 8 people. However, in term 2, we can't say for sure whether we're going to be entirely online or in person. That will highly depend on how the situation with COVID-19 develops, but we'll keep everyone updated through our newsletter and our social media pages. Okay, and now next one. So do not worry if you do not have any experience in debating, or public speaking, because our society will welcome to anyone of all ability levels. Even if you are experiencing, we will definitely adjust accordingly. And our training sessions each week would represent like a different skill or different topic. So you can always join the training sessions which best suits the needs that you want. Maybe you're not even interested in politics, but you're more interested in just developing your public speaking skills. That is completely fine. And we have very experienced training officers who really know what they're doing. So you're in very safe hands. And is UCLUNA planning to run a MEN conference this year? So for the past 10 years, we've been holding our conference, UCL MUN. However, this coming academic year, we do not plan to hold it due to COVID-19. However, we are in the talks with several universities and societies across London and the UK in order to maybe we can co-host online events or online conferences together with them. And the last question we receive quite frequently is, does UCLUNA offer careers mentoring and guidance? And we are currently in the talks of holding career panels for this. So keep an eye on our updates for that in our newsletter and our social media pages.
Okay, so this taster session is it's about a key skill when it comes to public speaking and rhetoric, which is phrasing and pauses. So I'm just gonna remove the pin and pin myself. There we go. Amazing. So phrasing is a term that a lot of you might have heard of when you play in a band or an orchestra. It means the way that the entire, the progression of whatever you're saying, playing, or whatever sound you're making is. So the goal here is that you want to make phrases or sentences that sound cohesive and flow well from one to the other. And you don't want to be pausing unnecessarily, or you don't want to be making ums and ahs as you speak. So here we are. Before we start, I will just play some music for you guys. So that's the first music. Can you guys hear that? Just thumbs up if you can hear it. Amazing. So starting again, this music carries you forward. It's very upbeat, it leans forward into the next phrase, and it gives you a sense of anticipation of what the next bit is going to be. And it's got these really exciting pauses, that sort of liven up the entire atmosphere, makes it exciting and not boring as the music progresses. Contrast that to this version. So this version obviously has no pauses, it's rushed, there's no phrasing, it's just very boring and very unpleasant to listen to generally. Yeah. And then there's a third version here. Okay, isn't it uncomfortable? Because you're kept there waiting as to what the next phrase is going to be. You're just waiting in suspense for the next measure. You don't know what's going to come afterwards. There's no cohesion to the entire flow of the music. It's the same thing when you speak in public as well. You want to pause when you speak in public, but not too much, because pausing too much makes you seem you don't know what you're talking about. However, if you do pause effectively, it gives you the impression that the speaker is very confident, comfortable, and very aware. And scientifically speaking, pauses when speaking are broadly classified into 3 groups. So the first group is less than 0.2 seconds. The second group is between 0.2 and 1 second. The last group is more than 1 second. So let's have a think about the 3 lengths of pauses when speaking, and which do you think types of speech just. So the first example is when you're reading a prepared speech, such as a president reading a teleprompter. So just shout out, unmute yourselves. Type of a pause do you think this is? Short, medium, or long?
I was going to say 0.2. You know it so well.
And yeah, and do you have any guess? Yeah, of course, you know it perfectly because you can see it. You can see what you're going to say next. You don't have to think about what you have to say, and you don't have to really pause unless you want to make a very strong impression or to emphasize a particular part of your speech. What about the second, when you're speaking off the cuff, when you haven't prepared a speech and someone says, "Oh, Henry, why don't you give a toast at this dinner?"
I guess that would be more than 1 second.
I guess that also could depend on to what degree you're comfortable with the content of the speech. Because if I was told to speak about politics in Afghanistan, I would not be very, very familiar with it. Whereas if I were asked to speak on World UN, it's a topic that I'm very experienced in, so I could speak a lot more easily without too many pauses. So what about a group discussion, such as now, during an unmoderated caucus in MUN sessions? How long are the speeches? How long are the pauses? Or how long have they been throughout this discussion after asking a question? Was that more than 1 second? Yeah? Okay, so broadly, if you ask people to think about things, then of course there'll be longer pauses and breaks in the conversation. That's not too difficult. And the question is it awkward to pause when you're speaking? No, it's not. It's absolutely essential. And let's think about the types of pauses that you might encounter when speaking. So the first of these is called punctuation pauses. And these appear when you have a break in your speech, in your sentences. You have the comma pause, which is a fairly short, it's the shortest of the punctuation pauses. And then you have the sentence, dash, or semicolon pauses, which are of a medium length. And then you have a paragraph pause, which is the longest pause in speaking. And these can appear when you're introducing new ideas or new thoughts into the conversation. Of course, you want to pause to give people time to absorb the ideas that you are transmitting to them. So you don't want to rush the entire thing through without any breaks, but instead you want to pause in between to emphasize your ideas and make sure that they come across clearly. And again, that's a paragraph pause. And the next idea, it's a rhetorical pause. So this is used to emphasize ideas. For example, if you have an idea or a phrase that you want to emphasize, you pause before it just to make sure that the succeeding clause comes across a lot more strongly than the preceding one. For example, it's a terrifying speech by the propaganda minister of the Nazi regime, Joseph Goebbels. So in this speech, he's asking the Nazi soldiers if they want total war. And total war, as some of you history buffs and IR students may know, is a scenario in which every man, woman, child, and resource of the Nazi Germany is dedicated towards the eradication of the Allies. So it's a mindset that is absolutely terrifying. It's dedicated to the eradication of the Jewish people. And here he says, "Ich frage euch, wollt ihr den totalen Krieg?" Of course, forgive me for my German pronunciation, but what this means is, I ask you, do you want total war? And in this sentence here, where do you think you'd have paused to to emphasize? Any ideas?
Okay, thank you. Well, I assume the pause would be after you to add the emphasis to the second phrase of his statement.
Of course, and that's absolutely correct, Jaden. And he pauses after "Ich frage euch." I ask you, do you want total war? He is at the Summer Palace. He's addressing a crowd of tens of thousands of soldiers and civilians, and he's asking them to commit themselves and their families to this idea of total war. So this is the key idea here. And of course, you pause before that to emphasize this particular clause. The third type of pause is something that you don't see very often, but it does appear quite a bit in political speeches. So as a general rule of thumb, more powerful people use longer pauses. And why do you think that is? Think back to speeches from Obama, Biden, Trump, or your political leader of choice, and think about the way they speak during their speeches. Are they comfortable with the audience? What kind of impression do they want to give to the audience? Are they commanding? Do they have power? Do they radiate power? And do they know that the audience is listening? And in these power pauses, what the speaker is doing is they are thinking about the words to come next. And they look, often in, for example, Obama is an amazing speaker. He looks across at the crowd of tens of thousands of people. He gazes into them almost personally, and he just stands there for 5 to 6 seconds. And then he goes on to the next phrase, which are often very, very dramatic and rhetorically powerful. Again, a key example of this is Adolf Hitler. Apologies for the many Nazi references, but they did have some incredibly powerful speeches. So what Hitler would do before his speeches, before his addresses, to stand there in front of televised crowds of millions of people across Germany. He would stand there, touching his hair, wiping his sweat, and playing with his moustache for minutes before beginning his speech. He stands there because he knows that the audience is transfixed on him. He is commanding the attention of all of these people. So when it comes to eminent speeches as well, pause as much as you like, make them powerful and meaningful. Don't pause because you don't know what to say. Prepare bullet points to avoid that issue. But the general rule is powerful people use longer pauses. Use that to your full advantage. So today's training is there's an extract from Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. So in this exercise, you have the speech of Mark Antony. Just copy and paste that into your browser, and you'll get a Google document which contains today's exercise. So what I recommend is you make a copy of this document. So go up to File, and then you can make a copy of it. And that allows you to edit the document with pauses as you want. And so you can so you can try to figure out where the pauses should go and how long they should be. So in about 5 minutes time, I'm going to ask one of you guys to volunteer to present this in front of everyone else. And in the meantime, I think I will call upon my good friend Henry to give us his rendition of this wonderful speech. So I'm gonna pin you here, Henry. And for just a bit of context here, I'm sure a lot of you know this, I'm preaching to the choir here, but the speech is given by Mark Antony, who is Caesar's good friend and general. So, and this is after Brutus and the other liberators stab Julius Caesar in the back. He's dead. And they have allowed Julius Caesar's friend to come give an oration at his funeral. And of course, this is under the assumption or the promise that Mark Antony would not speak ill of them. And you can see this as you read the extract here. And so in this speech, even though Antony outwardly justifies the actions of Brutus and the assassins, think about the way he speaks to turn the emotions of the crowd against Brutus and his co-conspirators and to paint Caesar in a favorable light. With that being said, Henry, the floor is all yours.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do live after them, so the good is oft interred with their bones, so let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus hath told you Caesar was ambitious. If it was so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously hath Caesar answered it. Here, under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honourable man. So are they all honourable men. Come I to speak in Caesar's funeral.
Thank you, Henry. It feels like I was in the crowd at Caesar's funeral, listening to your wonderful oration.
Thank
And
you.
do you have any more
Thank
volunteers at this time? Perhaps Nidara or one of the other committee members?
Gyubin, I don't know how you follow that. I think if maybe you want to give everyone just a minute to digest, like, the speech itself.
Yeah, sure. And again, these are just examples from people who are a bit more familiar with this particular speech or have done this exercise before, just to give an idea of what
I've
it
done
should
it
look
before,
like.
So I have practiced that.
Can I volunteer you, Nidara?
Of course you can. I have actually never seen this before, so this should be interesting. Don't gawp at me. I actually haven't seen this before. But all right, here we go. Here's my public speaking voice. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come here to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do after them, the good is oft interfered with their bones. So let it be with Caesar, the noble Brutus, hath told you Caesar was ambitious. If it was so, it was a grievous fault, and grievous hath Caesar answered it. Here, under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honourable man, so are they all honourable men. Come I to speak in Caesar's funeral. That was I've got to say I could do better if I had actually read this before, but off the cuffs, all right.
Of course. Just about 5 minutes to annotate this, think about what they've just heard from Henry and Nora, volunteers afterwards to present this. Okay, I'm very hesitant to ask this because I know people are reluctant to speak in public, let alone via Zoom, where it's a bit more awkward. Are there any volunteers?
Yep, if you don't mind, I could give it a go.
Please do. More than welcome to do so. I'll just pin you here. There we go.
Alrighty, well, pardon me if I get quiet sometimes. It's 2 a.m., so I can't wake the family, but here we go. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones, so let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus hath told you, Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously hath Caesar answered it, here under leave of Brutus and the rest. For Brutus is an honorable man. So are they all honorable men. Come I to speak in Caesar's funeral.
Well, a round of applause there, I think. That was fantastic.
Thank you for volunteering and for your wonderful rendition of Mark Antony's speech. So perhaps our VP of MUN has some feedback or comments on Julius' approach to that.
Yeah, so I think the first thing to say is, I'll say it with Nadara as well, was just that I think because Gyubin gave the document without any punctuation, which particularly because it's poetry as well. So I think I forget exactly where it was, but it's just the one thing to remember with poetry is obviously like the line, and there's no punctuation there, doesn't help. The line continues, and there are also a few. So I would say you put in a few pauses where pauses were a bit unnatural and just sort of disturbed the flow of it. But I think that was less down to your. It was just more down to what you were given. The other thing, Jaden, I think it was just a really nice tone, a very sort of authoritative manner in which it was delivered, I think. And it conveyed a certain gravitas with it really well. I think you paced it quite nicely, which is obviously one of the key things we're talking about. I think probably some points it would have just been, it's tricky to put these into concrete ways, but almost sort of a more perhaps speeding up a few bits as well, perhaps a little bit more adding in just a little bit more variation and pacing, but they're really commendable. And thank you so much for volunteering. I thought I was very impressed.
Thank you.
Cool. Are there any more volunteers for this? It is, as Henry said, very challenging because it's been given to you blind for most of you without any context or any prior knowledge of this extract. But again, if you are happy to take a stab at this, I would really encourage you to do so, because that is, of course, one of the key principles of practice. You have to put yourself out there and try things.
If anyone, the other thing I might just say quickly is that if anyone wants to perhaps, take this away and have a look at the version with punctuation, or have a bit of a think about it and record a version of yourself doing that, that'd be, I think I'm sure Raed, Alvaro, and myself would be more than happy to take a few minutes to look through it and provide any feedback. If you feel a bit uncomfortable doing it now but might want to do it later, send it along to the committee email or to our Facebook Messenger or something like that, and we can have a look at it. But yeah, if anyone wants to do it now, obviously it is tricky, but I think it's easy for me to say, but when you throw yourself, just give it a go. The first time's always the hardest.
I mean, you guys saw me do it imperfectly. It's completely fine. We're a welcoming group of people.
Charlotte and Lou, I think you've raised your hand.
Lou has had to go, but I'm Charlotte. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is often interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus hath told you Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously hath Caesar answered it. Here, on the leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honourable man, so are they all honourable men. Come I to speak in Caesar's funeral.
Thank you. That's amazing. Henry, what do you think of that?
Really nice. Yeah, again, really nicely delivered. I think I'm just going to try and get it up so I can work out. I don't know what to put it. Yeah, again, really nicely delivered. I think, particularly in terms of the pauses, I think, you know, I think, and this goes for everyone, just feel free sometimes to really like luxuriate in pauses. And with what Gyubin was saying earlier about, you know, sort of powerful people in long pauses, you don't have to do it. It's very much a stylistic choice, but, you know, particularly we've got words like grievously, you know, good interred with the bow. These are very grandiose. You know, I don't know if any of you have actually watched this clip, but, you know, I think the Laurence Olivier version is filmed in like this huge Roman, you know, not square, but sort of, you know, open area. There's a huge building there. This is very, you know, think of like, you know, great orators like Cicero or you know, Mark Antony, you know, standing up somewhere. And it takes practice and it takes time to develop that sort of confidence as much as anything. But yeah, just, you know, I think sometimes it's nice to have, you can have one sort of style of speaking, which is very, you know, measured and calm and even, which I think both Jaden and Charlotte's, I would say, were more in that sort of mold. That works really well. But I think sometimes if you're delivering something that's a bit more really rhetorically diverse like this is, and very grand, sometimes actually leaning a bit more towards a sort of, you know, sort of fight them on the beaches style of, because you think that the idea behind this speech is to build people up to a riot. And I think perhaps the point I'm trying to get towards is that no one's version was wrong, nor was any version right. The most important thing, I think, when you're judging particularly pauses is thinking, right, what's the context in which this is being delivered? You know, it's like the saying, you know, even take a funeral oration, you're going to deliver a very different oration like Mark Antony is when what he's trying to do is rile up the people of Rome against the senators who had Caesar murdered. You know, we've got it. That's one context, and you know, what another context is when you're at, a grandparent's funeral, and you know, delivering something much more somber and measured and calm. And just thinking about context in which something's being delivered. Is it, you know, 5,000 people? Is it 5 people? And that will determine a lot of your decisions about where these pauses are being put in and how long they are. You're not going to go, hello, everyone, if there's like 2 people standing in front of you. So working out, you know, the friends, Romans, countrymen, like that beginning is totally different if you've got 2 people with you versus 200. You know, thinking about like, and when you're practicing for speeches, think, I know we're not in person, but let's assume you are one day going to do a conference in person. If you're on a 200-person World Month committee versus say a really small UCL training session with 10 people, that's totally different. So just bear in mind where you're delivering it, what the context is, because that is probably the most important way of shaping things like pauses, things like tone, what rhetorical devices you're using.
Thank you, Henry, and of course, thank you, Charlotte, for very bravely volunteering. Could I just ask for perhaps one more volunteer before we listen to Damien Lewis give his rendition of this particular speech?
I would have a go, if no one else wants to. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus have told you Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it was a grievous fault. And grievously has Caesar answered it. Here, under leave of Brutus and the rest. For Brutus is an honorable man. So they're all honorable men, whom I to speak in Caesar's funeral.
Thank you very much, Lucas. That was really good. Henry, thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think just the same thing again. It's just I think Gyubin giving you poetry is tricky, and poetry reading is a skill in itself. And I think so. I'm just going to put like all those sort of take everything I said before as read. I think perhaps for me personally, I really like contrast between basically strung together sentences and then a slightly more dramatic pause. And I think that probably works as well for this. So let me see if I can get it up again quickly. Here we go. You know, so I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. You can just let that sentence flow. But then when you get some of these more, you know, and grievously hath Caesar answered it, that's where we can really start adding in some of those pauses there. Because I think sometimes, particularly when you're thinking about pauses, you put in too many. And restraint is always the best choice. You know, so fewer pauses and then a really like a more dramatic one will always work better than, say, you know, if you just friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. Like putting in too much gravitas is the wrong way to go, because then, you know, it's the same as anything, you've got to have contrast. So I would really try and think about that, and think about where is the most important place I can emphasize. You know, you might pick out some words like grievously. Honorable is a really important word in the speech, and that basically that runs through the whole thing. And the idea is that eventually it's the sarcastic honor, you know, this honorable man, and so those key words, those key ideas, emphasize those, and then let everything else, you know, just sort of sit. So imagine it's like a beautiful, you know, ring. Most of it is just metal, you know, they're just stands, but then there are just a few really, you know, amazing gems that draw the eye. And it's the same with good speeches. You want it, most of it is just sort of bubbling away in the background, but then you want to have these really amazing, you know, moving moments where it's really given space. And that's what pauses are for, to emphasize those. So I would just be wary of putting in a few too many. But again, yeah, I mean, thank you so much for giving it a go. And again, everyone, please do send me clips of these. I'd love to, you know, offer any more feedback that I can.
Thanks. I think I agree with your critique that I had too many pauses in the end. The reason why I like put this particular pause after Caesar, I've come to bury Caesar, not to praise him, is because I feel like this is like an important part of this speech that he says, well, I'm not praising him, but the reason why I'm making a big pause there is so that people don't know that I'm not praising him when I'm saying my intention of like coming here. Yeah, but yeah, I do agree. I need to cut pauses, I think.
I would just say, like, if you've got a reason for putting in a pause and a good and I think as long as there's intention behind it, that's fine. Yeah, it's just what I'm trying to more warn against is just putting them in. But if you've really thought about it, I think, you know, back yourself. Sometimes, yeah, you can probably take them out, but if you've got a really clear idea of why you want it in, keep it.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Lucas, for sharing your version of it. It was excellent. And thank you, of course, to Henry for your critique. So I think before we wrap up this taster session, I think I would like to share with you guys one of my favorite versions of this particular speech by the actor Damien Lewis. So I hope this time you can hear my sound as well as the video. That was, I think, you could see very clearly how he used pauses and phrasing effectively to make sure that his message came across, his sarcastic, deriding message that that makes fun of Brutus and his co-conspirators. And with that, I'll wrap up today's taster session, and we'll have the next 5 to 10 minutes for questions, concerns, and anything else that the committee wants to share with you. Thank you all very much. If you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourselves and just say it in the chat.
Before everyone disappears off, can
Sorry,
I just
Dara?
quickly remind everyone that we have the volunteering fair tomorrow from 12 to 3:30. Ola and I will be running one of the stalls, so come along if you have any questions about getting involved with our volunteering program or the work that we do with the United Nations. Thanks so much.
There's a question about the volunteering fair. There's a question in the chat. How does the volunteering fair work? So we can post the link to the fair that will take place tomorrow in the chat. And you have to just log in with your UCL details and you'll see our stall. And Nudara and I most likely will be on a call during the volunteering fair. So you can just pop in the call and ask us as many questions as you wish to.
I'm actually, because you guys are here anyway, I may as well, this is the link that we'll be using to run the Zoom call. So if you go onto the volunteering fair, there's a virtual stall, which is our website. But in case it crashes, etc., there's the link for the actual Zoom chat that we'll be running that you can access through the stall. So at 12 p.m. tomorrow, that'll be live.
We'll make sure to put that on Instagram and Facebook as well, so you guys don't lose the Zoom or the digital fair links. So before everyone disappears, I'll have 2 reminders. The first is to please buy the full membership if you're interested in coming to training sessions and the rest of the social events that we plan to run this year. And the second is that we have a WhatsApp group for freshers and the committee to ask us any questions directly. And the 7, 8 of us, one of us will reply fairly quickly. So Isabel will send the link to that share the link to that on Instagram and Facebook. So please join that if you want to message any of us quickly. Are there any questions from you guys at this time?
Okay, I just want to add that I've just sent a link to a poll on the Google's form just for general data collecting, like where in the world you guys are, what time zones do you prefer, and whether you guys would be interested in some society merch, and if you have any suggestions on what you think we could have done better today, what you like, what you didn't like, and etc.
Yep, so just to send it again here, it's bit.ly/UCLUNA freshers poll. It'll be available on our link tree as well, and it's well sent in the chat. So please do click that link and fill it out so that we can better tailor our sessions to your needs and preferences. Was there discuss as well? I think that's it. Are there any questions or comments from you guys at this time? Of course, if you're not comfortable saying it here, feel free to message us via Instagram, Facebook, or WhatsApp, as I suggested earlier. Got anything else from you, Nidara or Henry?
No, fab. Just thanks to everyone who's come today. I've met a few of you in our breakout rooms. I'm very excited to get to know the cohort. You guys seem fun. Yeah, just welcome to UCLUNA. We're a nice group of people for the most part, so you'll definitely get along with us. But yeah, hopefully I'll see a lot of you at the volunteering fair tomorrow. Feel free to message any of us at all, or message any of our Facebooks or Instagrams, because Isabel will always signpost you to the relevant person to chat to about things. Yeah. So we'll see you around for sure.
Thank you very much for coming today.
Yeah, thank you everyone. As I say, reach out to me if you want to send me any videos or if you have any questions. Ryan and Alvaro are also happy to help. I'm very excited working with you all.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening, morning or night, wherever you are, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you.